Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the DUI Guy Live. Today, we have a very special episode where we are going to be interviewing a brand new guest. She's never been on the channel before. She actually has a channel of her own. Her name is Katherine, and Katherine Henry, and she is an attorney in Michigan. I just put her link to her channel in the chat. She's almost at 10,000 subscribers, you guys. So if you guys can get her there, I'm sure she would be very, very much appreciative. And yeah, so she is backstage. She'll be joining me in just a moment. But first, I want to share with you guys who she is, right? So Restore Freedom is, as I understand, and she'll be able to tell you more about it, is an organization, an effort that she started alongside her firm, which started in 2008. It's basically an initiative ballot question committee. It has to do with investigating voters and basically Restore Freedom Initiative started in May of 2020. It was a proposal. This is what she writes. It was a proposal to amend the Michigan State Constitution to rein back in governmental power, prevent future abuses of power by the governor, legislature, and the courts, even in times of crisis or emergency, and restore Michigan to a government of the people. By the way, I love that. By the people and for the people, as required by our U.S. Constitution. Katherine Henry is the founder of the Restorative Freedom Initiative, the one that was started in May of 2020 in Michigan. And she is the owner and lead attorney of her firm, Katherine Henry PC, Professional Corporation, I think that stands for, if I'm not mistaken. This petition effort grew into an organization with thousands of volunteers and hundreds of thousands of active supporters, which is an amazing feat in just 2 short years. Our signature gathering efforts are completed, but our fight for freedom is not. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you all to Katherine. Hi, Katherine.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Was that a fair introduction? I want you all to tell the viewers what exactly is it that this Restore Freedom Initiative is all about?
So just to kind of take it back a sec, what I do now with my channel and my website and everything else, all the legal work I do, it's under the name Restore Freedom with Katherine Henry. And that's because my firm name was Katherine Henry PC, and the Restore Freedom Initiative was Restore Freedom Initiative. When the petition signature gathering efforts were done and we failed to get the 500,000 signatures needed to get on the ballot because of a little event we'll be talking about later today, I decided I needed to keep doing the same kind of work, though. So I was blending basically the volunteer organization I had with my law firm efforts. And so that's why I'm continuing under the general Restore Freedom name, but the initiative part, that was just in 2020. So the fact that we got thousands of volunteers all across the state of Michigan, that was just within a matter of weeks we were able to get that.
Wow.
In fact, you mentioned that my YouTube channel is just shy of 10,000. The funny thing is, that wasn't part of the initiative side. That was part of my legal work. I started challenging what the governor of Michigan was doing from day one, the only attorney to do that publicly. And so I started to, never had done lives or anything like that. That's not my thing. I hate social media, actually. And so
especially the ones that do it on the regular basis. We hate it the most. Trust me.
Yeah. And I actually didn't do a YouTube live until October 2nd of 2020. That was the day we got the decision from the Michigan Supreme Court on a case that I argued in the Michigan Supreme Court. And anyway, so I went in 3 weeks from 100 followers to just shy of 10,000. And for some reason, the algorithms have kept me for 2 years right under 10,000. So anyway. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride. But yeah, generally speaking, what I did with the initiative was, well, I alluded to the fact that I was fighting what the governor had been doing, shutting down our state and implementing all of these rules and EOs and things. So I was fighting in court. I didn't file any of my own lawsuits, but I filed amicus briefs in several cases and several different stages, Court of Appeals, Michigan Supreme Court, et cetera. And I ended up getting a rare opportunity to be one of the two amicus parties to argue, oral argument time, argue against the governor's executive orders in the Michigan Supreme Court in 2020. The Michigan legislature was the other amicus party to argue against her orders. But so I was doing that kind of work on, so that's the legal side. I have some amicus briefs I'm working on right now against some additional things the governor in Michigan is trying to do and the AG in Michigan is trying to do. They kind of forget about the Constitution a lot. But then the petition was something that, had we gotten the almost 500,000 signatures that would have been needed under state law in order to get it on the ballot, which would have been the ballot this coming November, actually. But it would have changed the Michigan state constitution to put some real teeth, provide standing for basically the average citizen to bring any government official into court and have some actual real sanctions and things being done when government officials violate the Constitution, the state or federal.
Right. So let's talk about at least one of the more notorious violations that we are here to talk about. In November of 2020, and please stop me at any point if I get the story wrong, right? In November of 2020, you had a committee of individuals who had tables set up in Michigan near voting booths with, they had information for voters, right?
We had, that was we had thousands of volunteers that day all across the state because the best time to get. Yep, all across the state. That's the best time to get, signatures of registered voters is when they're already at the polls.
And in one particular location, specifically Leighton Township in Allegan County, Michigan, there was some ruckus, let's just call it, going around. And at some point, you get contacted, since you're the legal face, the legal mind behind the operation, obviously. You speak with a Sheriff Deputy Langlois. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Langlois. And he says, we have an issue. Your people need to clear out or whatever. They're trespassing on government property. There are voters here. They have no right to be here. And you say, I will clear things up. I'm 30 minutes away. Let me drive over there, clear the air. And he says, come on down.
Yeah, I tried to talk to him about it on the phone first, and it really, in what happened, which I figured out in hindsight, is that he had no idea what he was doing. He didn't know the law. He didn't even read the township resolution that they were trying to enforce that day, which didn't say what they thought.
No offense to him if Deputy Langlois watches this at some point, but at the end of the day, he's just a pawn, right? He's not a sergeant. He's not a lieutenant deputy. He's just a sheriff's deputy. He's one of the lackeys of the department. It's not, no offense, again to him, but he would argue it's not my job to read and be informed. That's for my superiors, right?
Oh, definitely said it was not his job to read the law or to know the law that he was charged with enforcing.
Trying to enforce, right? Yeah. So you make your way down there, you show up, and he's not there.
Well, just for a few minutes.
For a few minutes.
Yeah, when we weren't able to come to the truth of the matter over the phone, I was having a real hard time with the fact that I was like, is he really that much of an idiot that he thinks? Because he thought he was quoting the law and he wasn't. And so I said, listen, I'll just print it all out. I'll print off all the laws that we're talking about. I'll put them all together, put them on a piece of paper, bring them out there, and then you can, obviously double check me with your phone or whatever, your computer. So we'll just talk about it in person, because there's just something, because keep in mind, I'm an attorney and I'm a fierce advocate for anything related to freedom, but I've also been a mediator and a trained neutral facilitator for longer than I'm an attorney. So I was trying to employ those skills and work with him.
As we often do, because we have a toolkit and we'd like to use it, especially if we think that it's going to be beneficial to our cause and to get our point across. Trust me, when I had sheriff's deputies in Virginia in Fairfax County, I was trying to get inside the courtroom and they were saying, "You're not coming in," with zero explanation, zero justification. You bet your ass that I still made it to the front of the line and had it all on video when they're telling me with no reason whatsoever, "You're not going in, Mr. Foreman." I said, okay. So trust me, we're almost we're hungry. We're stupid in that sense. We're hungry to catch them in the act, and sometimes it bites us in the ass, as it did in this. So just to catch people up. So I think we're on.
Well, just to be clear,
Yeah.
we weren't antagonistic over the phone. I wasn't trying to catch him doing anything. I was
No. Later, I'm saying like later on, before the confrontation went down, right, which we're about to watch.
Yeah.
Just make sure that the viewers and I and you are all on the same page. But so you arrive on scene. He shows up. The deputy shows up a few minutes later. There are a bunch of other deputies, and you basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going back and forth, and you are consistently reinforcing the fact that we do have a legal right to be here. Here's the law, deputy, that permits us to be here. And he says, "Law schma, I got this lady clerk here, and she tells me you need to get the fuck out of here. And I listen to her more than I read your stupid fancy black letters on white paper."
And I don't think it made it into this video here, but the priceless thing that he said, that two of the deputies said, was more than once each, is that it wasn't public property. They said it was private property, and that the township clerk was the owner of that property.
Owner, like she bought it, like she paid for it.
Well, then there got to be an exchange with a voter who happened to walk up while this was happening, and his words, I think, somewhat were caught in this video because he was closer. In fact, he's, I think, the one that was holding the camera for the angle that we're about to see right now, because there were multiple camera angles that ended up, put into this compilation here. But yeah, he was saying, I'm an owner. I live here. I pay taxes here. And the deputy's like, "Well, but you don't make sure to get the grass cut. You don't pay to cut the grass here, do you?"
Right,
and he's like,
exactly.
"I pay my tax
All right,
dollars."
so let's take a look. Let's see what we're dealing with here.
You may not leave a vehicle on township property beyond the time necessary to transact township business.
But it says right here that nothing in this is meant to.
But that does not say anything.
That's the clerk's
about
hand, I can
leaving
see,
a
right?
vehicle on township
Yeah.
property beyond township business hours.
So you were asked to leave. Okay, do you understand that? So you were asked to leave. Are you willing to leave? Yes or no?
So all of you, let's see. This is Deputy Bustle. Am I saying that
Bustle
correct?
and Anderson. Yep.
Deputy
Langlois.
Anderson,
Anderson.
Deputy Bustle, Deputy Anderson, and Deputy Langlois are telling me that they're going to arrest me. Can I hold on a second? I know you just came, and I'm trying to be calm, but as you can tell, I'm a little. Sir. Let me finish the sentence. Can I ask you 5 minutes? Can I ask you for 5 minutes to talk about what the law actually says?
You've already talked to the supervisor. They've asked you to
She
leave.
has no right to stop me from being
Are
here.
you willing to leave? Yes or no?
You have no right to. You're violating the law.
Okay, we have a right to ask you.
Can you? No, you
The
don't.
prosecutor's is on board with the trespassing.
I don't care what the prosecutor says. You can't
Are
trespass.
you willing to leave?
I'm asking if you're willing to look at the law.
Are you willing to leave?
Possibly if you look at the law.
Okay. This has nothing to do with what she's requesting you.
There we
Yeah,
go.
but she can't override
Her
the law.
word is more
Are you
important than what the
willing to
law
leave?
says.
This is Mary Lou, I can't read her
Terrifying.
last name, clerk of Leighton Township. So also someone who's violating our rights.
Go ahead and turn around.
So are you willing?
Stop! Get off of me! Get off of me! My child is in the car! Stop! Get off of me! You're gonna make me drop my phone. Please set my phone down. I'm going to.
This is absolutely unnecessary.
You are stop, please. I'm asking you. I will leave right now. My child is in the. I will leave right now. Can you just let me vote? I want to vote, and then you can rush.
Do you vote at this precinct?
No,
Okay. So you don't have that.
I do right there. My child is here.
Okay, are you two willing to leave?
No, you do not. I'm not.
I just voted. That's all I did, and I signed a petition. So I'm just a bystander, sir.
Please, my child is in the car.
I want the.
Okay.
Are you willing to leave?
Please, I have a right to be here. You are not acting according to the Constitution. I need your keys for your. I can't get them. They won't let me give you my keys.
Get her child.
How old is her child?
6.
That's my daughter.
Yeah. And if this is what we have to do, that's okay.
And this is why they call them domestic terrorists, by the way.
Stop! I need to send my dad down. Stop!
Thank you.
Stop! I'm going to sit down.
No regard for human dignity, no regard for what she needs. Simply, we have to execute our arrest and the rest be damned. This is what I hate the most.
You are hurting me. Please stop hurting me. I'm trying to sit down. Please stop doing this.
I'm sorry if this is bringing back PTSD, Catherine.
He is documenting it all now. He's got the phone set up.
Yeah, Facebook Live.
Is she
Okay.
out of the car? Is that what she-
She might have just gotten out on the
Yeah,
other
she
side.
just got out on the other side.
This is a while later.
So this is later, right? This is when you're already out of the car, post arrest. How long have you been in the car at this point?
Honestly, I don't even know because
Yeah.
I mean, the car, I don't know if you could tell in the angle, but the deputy's SUV had been moved at that point because he was blocking traffic. Voters couldn't get in and out. He had already, at this point, this is interesting. How many situations like this have you ever heard of where the accused is in the back of the sheriff's, the deputy's car in handcuffs, being offered to talk to the sheriff himself if they have any questions? So I was like, oh, okay, sure, call him. And the deputy acted all irritated, like, well, you really want to talk to him? Well, you offered. So he called him on his cell phone, and he's holding the cell phone up saying how I was agitating. He was trying to be calm and neutral, and I was agitating things by aggressively live streaming what was happening because I was
What is aggressively live streaming? What is that even a term?
I guess. I mean, you guys just saw, you missed like first 5-10 minutes of the video, but
The
there
link
really
is in the
wasn't.
description below, by the way, and it's also it's on her channel, Catherine's channel. So feel free to check it out. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to this channel, and also go to Catherine's channel and subscribe to her channel to see more of her content. Not just this, but all the constitutional fights that she is currently battling. So I guess the question on everyone's mind is, after you arrived, okay, and you're envisioning, again, as a lawyer, I can empathize. I don't know if the rest of our viewers can, but you envision that you have like this metaphorical arsenal in your back pocket that you can pull out at any moment. And basically feel free to disagree with me, but I feel like we can argue our way out of a paper bag like 9 times out of 10. If we're cornered, we'll be able to convince with logic and cogency and law and cohesiveness and just create the perfect argument and get out of every situation. And when you arrive on scene and you see your the supporters of the cause that you are behind, that you have created, literally created, being attempted to be shut down at one particular location, because you said there were tons of these locations and none of them had any issue. It was just one place in one county in Michigan that was like, you all need to leave. You're trespassing. And by the way, just a little aside, is it possible that Lady in Red, you know that song? Yeah. Lady in Red shows up and decides to fuck up your party. Is it possible that she was the instigator to this whole thing? Did she call the cops on you all?
A couple of things is we did have some other issues in other areas, some voting precincts. In fact, I was actually on my way to another polling location. And this happened earlier, the whole situation started earlier in the day. And so when I started live streaming about it, voters, not just voters, but my volunteers all across the state started seeing this, because most of the people were also followers of mine on social media. And whether they saw my video or they were hearing about it through other social media streams, other people had been, Facebook live streaming it, etc. People all over. I had news stations, calling me and emailing and texting me from the moment I was released. People knew all over the state. So a lot of petition circulators were frightened and either didn't show up for their shift at the polls, to work a table to get signatures, or they left because they were frightened.
I'm telling you, this is the instigator right here. But for this, no.
Okay, so there's a little bit going on.
What else is why is she there? Is she the elected clerk of the county?
She no longer. She retired after.
At the time, I'm sorry. We're talking November 2020. I apologize. I know this is 2 years in the future today.
So she was.
So what the heck is she doing there? Why is she present in the flesh?
So she's one of those people that it's all, a typical small town government official who thinks that, she's just too big for her britches, basically. So there's that kind of element. Then you have 2 of the 3 deputies, because, all 3 had to be called scene because I'm such a physical menacing threat, of course. I wasn't even carrying that day. I almost did, but I wasn't. So at any rate, you have the 2 bigger, more experienced ones that you could see on screen here. The smaller, younger one is off in the background, but those 2 guys have the whole alpha dog, complex where whatever they say goes, and you can't question them. You can't have a conversation, nothing. They both have a history, by the way, of having issues in other departments and in other positions in the law enforcement world. But I think there's just a combination of things. You have those 3 things, but I could tell you that the governor of Michigan and
the way,
AU,
sorry to interrupt, just real quick. You know who she reminds me of? This woman. Do you remember her? Kim Davis, the one that was declining when the United States Supreme Court has passed and said gay marriage, same-sex marriage is legal in this country. She is from Kentucky, so I'm not proud of this moment, but hey, I think she was in Casey County, somewhere in the boonies. She said she had a gay couple come in and say, we would like to get married. Please sign our marriage certificate. And she said, no, I'm not signing this. This is appalling. This is, going against God, blah, blah. So she literally fucking brought religion into the clerk's office and said, I'm not signing your petition. And she went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, her rejection of the signing of the marriage certificate, and she lost. The Supreme Court's opinion, your personal opinion, is irrelevant. I don't know. Your lady in red reminds me of this lady in red. It so happens they're wearing the same color jacket. I can't make this shit up. And this is an article from 2020 as well. I think this is from October 5th of 2020. So not very far apart. And she was the head clerk as well. I don't know. It's just there's a pattern. Some of these people, once they get in a position of power in a small, like you said, little county, small population, everybody knows everybody. You give them just a little bit. You give them just a little bit of power, and they go nuts. They're like, I'm invincible. I can do everything, and people listen to me. Nobody has ever listened to me before, and now people are listening to me, and it's terrifying. When you give them just a little bit of power, they can choose sometimes to abuse it. But anyway, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Well, there was definitely that kind of element to it, but there also was a bigger issue, I guess, at play. So I mentioned
What's
earlier that unrelated to my petition, I was doing, work to, file these amicus briefs and other
Yes.
things against the governor's actions. I went all out. I did a ton. So one thing I did is, April 30th, 2020, we had a rally, the first in-person rally in Michigan to fight against the governor's EOs and restrictions. I actually was one of the speakers on the steps of the Capitol that day. I was inside in the armed gunmen were taking down the Capitol, whatever the, phrase is in the mass media about that day. But anyway, so I was in there on the front lines, trying to get into the session of legislature, which, by the way, is required under the Constitution of Michigan, but not that matters. Anyway, so
Who follows the laws anyway, Katherine?
Right. So, and I, of course, that day was speaking about the law and the Constitution and the requirements of the governor and the legislature to follow both. So that was kind of, a little bit more of the catalyst to not making friends with the two of them, the governor and the AG. So a few days later, because then I'm saying, I made a post, at midnight, hey, that the legislature did not vote to renew these EOs, so it's done. You can go about your business and ignore them. I mean, they were unconstitutional from the beginning, but I was trying to meet people at least on a simpler term that people understanding is just the law, and the law was clear. So anyway, that little one sentence post, and I was, I'm still a nobody, but I was really a nobody back then. I mean, I wasn't doing YouTube. I had never done a live stream at that point. I was just a person on my Facebook that posted one sentence like, hey, the EOs are done. And I woke up and I had everybody and their grandmother after me going, what does this mean? How can you say that? I mean, asking me questions in hope of it being true. Other people saying, that's not true. How could you dare say such a thing? That's just not how this works. And I'm like, what do you mean how this works? So at any rate, that led to the AG wrote a letter like
the AG is the Attorney General, by the way.
Yeah. So the main attorney for the state of Michigan ended up in response writing this letter to all the law enforcement agencies and all the prosecuting attorneys and city's attorneys all across Michigan saying, hey, you still have to follow and enforce these EOs. And if people aren't,
what's an EO for the people aren't familiar?
Executive order.
Executive order. Thank you.
So, yeah. So if you don't enforce these executive orders as though they're laws, some of which included, that people weren't allowed to leave their homes unless they had a written permission slip. Seriously. I'm like, anyway. So she said, you have to keep enforcing these. So what did I do? Well, I spent the next few days writing an 11-page response about how illegal that would be, how unconstitutional, and how each and every one of those law enforcement officers or prosecuting attorneys would be held personally responsible if they were to do something. And then the hard part was looking up all of their email addresses, because those thousands of departments all across the state, they don't want people to actually contact them. So anyway, we had a small team of volunteers that were helping me try to get all those. Mother's Day, I finally sent out, Mother's Day 2020, I finally sent out this mass email, and I put it in brief format, like a legal brief. And I warned them all, like, hey, you can't enforce these EOs. You're going to be held responsible for this. I don't care what the AG says. It's up to you. You can't do the whole, I was just following orders. I mean, that didn't work in Nuremberg. It's not going to work now. So
one of my favorites.
Anyway, so that, then the news station started, interviewing me a little bit more.
Okay, so hold on. Let's take a step back. You started talking about the deputies and their history. So apparently these deputies that showed up on scene had a bit of a black mark on the record already before showing up on election day to confront you. By the way, thank you for the donation, May. And she says, good to see you all. Good to see you too, May. Thank you for joining. Go ahead, Katherine.
Yes, but I can answer that, but I guarantee you there's some really interesting things your viewers are going to want to know. So let me just speak those in real quick. So what I was kind of laying out for you was the reason why the governor and the AG not only knew who I was, but knew that I was going to call them on their shit for violating the law and violating the Constitution. And that was before I ever did any of those briefs in the Michigan Supreme Court or argued against them in the Michigan Supreme Court. So anyway, they know me from that. But then also during 2020, everybody watching, I'm sure, knows about the supposed plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan and the arrests that came from that. And it was all these horrible militia people. I don't know. I'm assuming you've heard of it. My computer's freezing, so hopefully you guys are hearing me okay. Well, that supposed, thing. Well, and now we know most of the people have been acquitted. Some of the trials are still going. I personally know 2 of the people who were arrested, the Null brothers, and the news stations, of course, started picking me up, Fox and Fox 2 and Fox Grand Rapids. Anyway, they were starting to interview me about the fact that I was publicly supporting the Null brothers, and I was putting all the Republicans and Democrats to shame on social media, saying, before you guys try to crucify these guys, how about we recognize that in our country, we're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and it's a pretty high standard. And we haven't even begun to see the government prove their case on any of these facts, and they can't. And so anyway, of course, that gave me some notoriety with the AG and the governor because, they were going to kill her. No, they weren't. Anyway, so there's some stuff with that case and some of those defendants where the AG's office was trying to directly intervene and seek some dirt on me in exchange for dropping the case against a couple of the defendants.
Good God.
Yeah, so that was a nationwide case. I mean, like everybody in the country heard about that, at least in 2020. They might not remember it now, but at any rate, so there's a lot of different things that were happening. I was, leading the charge for freedom in Michigan in 2020. And so there was a target on my back. And I'm really not afraid of much. I mean, spiders, and Florida-sized cockroaches. But aside from that, I'm really not afraid of much. And, okay, sharks when I'm in the ocean. But, I just don't swim in New Smyrna Beach. It's fine. I just swim where I live. But anyway, it's so I think that they figured out this way that they could try to stall me and stop me. And I didn't, I didn't slow down what I was doing. I mean, it bogged me down.
Appreciate that.
Well, and quite frankly, to let people know, it's not like this was all over. They, tons of people that were watching live that day were calling the jail and saying, hey, I'm coming out there. You guys can't do this. You better release Katherine Henry. And they started lying to people. Dispatch was telling people they never arrested me at all. Well, yeah, that's an arrest. Definitely putting me in handcuffs is an arrest. And they beat the crap out of me. I had bruises, contusions. I was bleeding. I had scratches. I had, pain, not to mention the PTSD. These slime balls, when they had me locked up in the back of the deputy's car, and they were telling me they're going to take me to the jail and they're going to do, who knows, however they're going to process me. I mean, right. At this point, keep in mind, the Michigan governor and her little EOs were releasing convicted felons and others from our jails and our prison systems because it was just too unsafe with, that new flu that was going around in 2020. So meanwhile, they're going to throw me in there for supposedly trespassing, which is, even if I was trespassing, it's a low-level nonviolent misdemeanor. They don't even have the right to get an arrest without a warrant on something like that. I mean, it's crazy. But not only are they doing that to me, they're telling me they're going to tow my car illegally. They're not going to let anybody that I trust there on scene just take my car for me or let my husband come and get it. But they're also telling me they're going to take my then 6-year-old daughter and throw her in the CPS system, and I'm not going to have her ever again. And what scared me about that is I've been an attorney for children in CPS situations in 2 different states. I've been a public defender in 2 different states. I know how broken the system is. So when they're making kinds of threats, I mean, I was beyond the fact that I was already beat up and in the back of this car and having multiple rights denied. I'm going, this isn't even the United States. I mean, I know what the laws are.
I can
know
only
what my
imagine
rights
what was
are,
going
but
through your mind when this was going down. So you ended up, thank goodness, not spending a night in jail or anything crazy like that, I hope, right? You were released immediately, more or less, within a few minutes, hours, whatever.
yeah,
same
let's
day?
say an hour.
But you
I'm
were
not sure
still
exactly.
charged criminally with the Michigan trespassing statute, and that case was later dismissed, right?
I was charged, yes, with, that never commenced legally because what he wrote it up for that day was just a civil infraction, not a criminal case. And
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I was served with a civil infraction, but by the time he filed it with the court, what was that, 9 days later, at 4 p.m., he had modified the carbon copy ticket, which is illegal. It's a felony in Michigan. He modified it.
Well, wait, did he get charged with a felony?
Not yet. I'm not done with them.
Oh, I have a few of those of my own in the pipeline. Trust me, these fuckers are never going to get charged. As long as you're part of the system, you basically have blanket immunity. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, if my amendment had gone through, that would not have been the case. But anyway, he had modified it, added a whole bunch of things, and changed it to a criminal case. So then in the court system, it was started as a criminal misdemeanor, even though it had legally commenced as a civil infraction against me. So anyway, it wasn't until the night before the jury trial date, because keep in mind, there's no to a speedy trial in Allegan County. So the court kept moving my trial date 8 times without ever once giving me notice and opportunity to be heard on the fact that they were moving my trial date. So trial date number 2 was set for July 21st, 2021. And the night before, as I sat in Allegan County at a friend's law office, working up my opening statement or something, court emailed me a notice to appear because apparently the prosecutor the day before had filed an amended complaint and didn't want to serve me with that either. But they added a second charge. This time it was for disturbing the peace. So I then battled.
Wait, they didn't throw in resisting arrest? I mean, come on. I could easily, as a prosecutor, throw in resisting an RA in there as well.
I wondered why they didn't, but I ended up filing interlocutory appeals, which ended up going up 2 levels. I had multiple interlocutory appeals. I had to write so many briefs. It could have taken a big firm with 300 attorneys in it to get all this work done. And somehow I was staying up day in and day out without sleeping for months to try to get all this done. And it finally, my trial was actually going to go supposedly this June. And so in May, I filed some last minute motions saying, okay, well, you guys have violated my rights enough. I'm going to file a whole bunch of these motions to explain, lay out the parameters for this trial. Like, you can't deny me assistance of counsel. They actually kept attorneys out of the courtroom that were there to help me in February of 2021.
What? Are you serious?
Oh, literally. In fact, every single in-person hearing I had in this case in all of 2021, they denied me having any other human being in the courtroom with me. And on some occasions, they literally kept my husband from coming into the courthouse. So even in January and February 2021 in Michigan, when it's like 10 degrees outside, they threw my husband or didn't let him come in the building at all.
Talk about abuse of power. Why? What was, okay, not in reality, but getting into their heads. Why do you feel they felt that they had justification? What was justifying their actions?
It was that flu virus thing. That was the justification.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the flu virus thing kind of had, at least that was the reason. They were trying to protect the health of individuals. I respect that. Okay. But to me, it seems like they were also using that and operating under the guise of, well, we're going to use that to deprive you of your right to counsel. Am I missing something?
Yeah, so literally when I walked in, again, not no other human was allowed in with me. The bailiff, we had explained, I had attorney Greg Todd with me, and he used to be law enforcement. He comes up to me, and I had all these, actually I got one of them right next to me, big boxes of all these cases and statutes and things because they violated so many of my rights. I didn't know what was going to come up. But anyway, had everything with me, a lot for me to carry by myself. And he's carrying some, I'm carrying some. The deputy says, well, nobody else is allowed in the courtroom. It's, by the way, in Michigan, there is actually a specific statute that's been on the books since 1846 that says every single court hearing has to be open to the public. But anyway,
right.
So he said, this public hearing cannot be open to the public. No one can come in. And I said, well, this is an attorney I've brought with me. Actually, I brought him
different, just a little bit. He's not just the public. He's gonna stand next to me and protect my rights.
Well, this is a double whammy. I brought an attorney because I am hard of hearing and I read lips, and the judge at the arraignment was not wearing a mask. But I didn't know what to expect going into this motion hearing. It was on my motion to dismiss, February 4th, 2021. And sure enough, we show up and the judge is wearing a mask and he's behind plexiglass. And he's still not allowing anybody else in the courtroom. And I was like, Your Honor, I literally brought this person with me, not only as assistance of counsel, which I'm required to have under the Constitution, but I've brought him as my ADA accommodation because you're refusing my accommodations to allow me to read lips. So I brought him up to speed on what
How deep does this rabbit hole go, Catherine? You're killing me. Oh my God.
If you only knew that it goes and goes and goes. I mean, this case is like the never ending. In fact, I have a motion pending right now. So these motion hearings.
Motion for what?
Well, so I told you nobody was allowed.
Give me the nutshell version.
Oh, this is. So I told you nobody was allowed in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Well, they were live streaming, and that's where he said it's a public hearing because we're live streaming. The hearings were done. He deleted the live streams, so nobody could go back and watch them.
Get the fuck
no joke.
Out of here.
So I had to pay $20 and get his court order to give me a copy of a DVD. But then the DVD says that I will be held in contempt of court and can be thrown in jail if I share the DVD with any other human being.
Okay, because they know you have a channel, obviously. Yeah,
the worst thing
Speaking
is,
of, by the way, don't forget to go subscribe to Catherine's channel. Her the link is in the description. I just posted it. She's like this close to 10,000 subscribers, you guys. She's missing like 15 or 20. Go subscribe. Let's get her to 10,000 during this stream. Okay, so is the case? I thought the case was over. Did I make a mistake? Is it still pending?
So in July, my motion to dismiss,
last month, literally a few days ago.
Yep, on my husband's birthday, July 7th, we were actually, I was granted my motion to dismiss both charges, and the judge refused to hear any of my other motions that were pending that day, including about the fact that I should be able to have anybody view these DVDs whenever, because that's kind of a constitutional requirement. And anyway, so
by the way, congratulations, you're at 10,000 subscribers.
I thank you. That's great, guys. I appreciate it.
Yay.
So I I wasn't going to push him that day. I do have PTSD from this, guys. I'm a fighter and afraid of taking on a cause even now, but it doesn't mean it doesn't physically affect me. So that was actually the most quiet I've ever been in a hearing, was during that motion hearing, because I think he read enough of my briefs finally to realize that he was going to be in big trouble if he kept the case going. Although he, like an idiot, said during the hearing, Well, I've never watched the video of the incident. Mind you, it was an
Oh
exhibit.
my God, no way.
It was an exhibit that
On
I
the
filed
record?
in January 2021. So for a year and a half, he never bothered to view the incident. Meanwhile, the prosecutor said, well, yeah, Your Honor, I've watched the video many times. And then that's when the judge interrupted him. Well, I just want to be clear. I've never seen the video. Wait a minute. That says it all. Like, if you're not watching the video, how can you possibly, that would have cleared up so many of your stupid questions. But at any rate,
And this case would have been dismissed way sooner. Wow.
Correct.
Well, listen, I think you have a very valiant cause that you're fighting for. I absolutely support you. I'm not in Michigan, but
I'm not there anymore either.
You got the hell out of there, didn't you? Well, you don't have to tell us. What state are you in now? Are you in Florida? Okay, good for you.
And I grew up in Florida.
Would say. Florida is definitely a better jurisdiction for this kind of stuff. So a lot more liberal, a lot more relaxed on the masks and all that. So I don't blame you one bit. But I wanted to thank you very much for coming on to my channel and sharing your story. It's been eye-opening, I'm sure, for a lot of people. I know that we had a lot of constitutionalists in the chat. We had Otto, we had Ghostwriter, we had Liberty Cause. It's been a while, guys. The A1A community, the First Amendment auditor community, I definitely have not been partaking in a long time. So it was good to see a lot of familiar faces. And Katherine, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. And I thank you once again for coming on and telling your story.
I want people to keep in mind, if you're, especially if you're an attorney and you're not willing to take this cause on. I mean, like I say this later on in the incident video, when we went off property a mile down the road and continued recording or live streaming, I should say. But I had to continue. I had to be there. I didn't know that I was going to get arrested, but I had to be there knowing that my volunteers were being threatened with an illegal arrest.
That's insane. Yeah.
When it turned into,
stood up to the cause, you showed up.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. You showed up, Katherine.
It's illegal for, especially in Michigan, I don't know anywhere else, but in Michigan, attorneys are actually public officials by law. And so there's a law that says you cannot arrest a public official when they're in the official course of their duties. So it was illegal for them to arrest me, regardless of all the other reasons why it was unconstitutional or illegal. And the thing is, I have to keep fighting this, because if I back down and this is just left how it is, what attorney anywhere, especially new attorneys coming out or attorneys that just start to fight on these important constitutional issues, who is going to be willing to put their own livelihood or their own freedom on the line as an attorney?
Not me, then who? Yep.
Right. Because I mean, shoot, if you're thinking, well, dang, I'm going to get arrested if I go and represent somebody, or if I, get right on in there. So no, you just call me after you've been arrested and for your arraignment. That's how it's going to be. And that's the only thing attorneys are ever going to do. So if you're an attorney out there, hear me, you've got to be willing to this yourself and take one for the team and fight it all the way.
There you go. You guys heard it here first. Katherine, thank you once again for joining me. And chat, thank you all for joining us on this unique stream. I wanted to make sure that Katherine's story gets heard. And we'll see. We'll see where this country's headed. At this point, I don't have very high hopes, Katherine. I don't know about you, but the kind of shit that I've been seeing, and you just like you, I'm also in the trenches. I see this shit every day. I had a police officer admit to committing a felony the other day in one of my trials, literally my client. And when I asked the prosecutor, are you going to investigate this? He basically said, you can go ahead. I'm not doing shit. So, and I have it all on the record. It's all on my channel if you guys haven't seen it yet. So thank you all so much. Much love. I love every single one of you. Thank you for joining me. Katherine, thank you for joining me here as well.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Y'all have a great night. Bye-bye.